If you ever wondered how a nuclear war would start, well, we're about to see now, minute by minute.
Nuclear missiles will strike our country in 14 minutes. I know it's your first day in office, so I'm going to walk you through it, but you're the only one who can authorize our nuclear retaliation in response, and you've only got a few minutes to make a decision.
Great way to start your first day in office. I wonder who is the president.
As you know, tensions have escalated rapidly in the past few days. Today's Joint Allied Aerial Defense exercise began just minutes before we detected the launch. A simple misunderstanding, maybe. We assumed the sudden attack is meant to neutralize as many of our nuclear forces as possible. But that doesn't matter now. Missiles are in the air, and we can't shoot all of them down. Why? Because intercontinental ballistic missiles are basically rockets launched into space before re-entering the atmosphere over their target and releasing many different warheads, higher and faster than anything you can send after them.
So far it sounds like there is nothing to be done in Elon Musk's territory, aka the space.
Need to get you to the bunker. Here's what we know. 4 minutes ago, our new infrared monitoring satellites detected 112 bursts consistent with ICBM launches from the enemy's inner territories. For some reason, only 20 of their 80 underground nuclear silos seem to have fired, so we suspect most of them were transporter erector launchers. You know, trucks.
This reminds me of a game called Dune 2 for some reason. Anyway, this president is having a very rough first day at work.
Big missiles on them. It's unclear why they didn't use all their silos. They might just not work after more than 30 years, or they might be keeping them in reserve. The fog of war is keeping many things unclear. Aerospace Command thinks the ICBMs are targeting our nuclear command centers, silos, and major Air Force and Navy bases, ending this war before we have a chance to act.
With all of these animations, everything looks like it's made probably 1,000 years in the future.
The enemy's strategic doctrine prioritizes military targets and our nuclear weapon systems, but their secondary targets are our industry and infrastructure, all refineries, power stations, and deep water ports, all located near or in major population centers. We won't know the exact casualty count for a few weeks. Deaths from the blast and burns may be a few million today. It's morning rush hour, and there's not much to be done for people stuck in traffic.
Sounds like everyone is about to die, and radiation is gonna be felt for the next 100+ years.
People in major metro areas can't really evacuate, but emergency broadcasts are being sent out to shelter in place and away from windows. Radiation exposure for intact population centers is highly dependent on the weather over the next week. We might be looking at dozens of millions of deaths by the end of the month.
Imagine the people starting the nuclear war getting those quotes right in their country.
For the next few minutes, we can still respond, but you need to decide. We've got 1,500 warheads across our silos, bombers, and submarines. The 400 in silos need to be launched now before they get taken out. 46 nuclear-capable bombers on high alert can be ready to take off in 2 minutes, though we need to transmit the order right away to get them out of the blast radius if you want to consider using them. Of our 40 nuclear submarines, 5 are presently at sea. While they're submerged, they're undetectable, so that's our backup for a nuclear retaliation.
Now imagine the person that tells that to the president to be a liar, and the president decides that he's actually gonna start the war and send nuclear missiles to another country.
If we lose our silos and bombers, we could try to use them to bomb out their remaining silo fields before they can launch them. The sooner you commit to it, the better the chance we have of preventing a further exchange after our retaliation. Updates. We have radar confirmation that the enemy ICBMs have completed their burn and deployed their warheads. Our best guess is that each missile will deploy at least 6 re-entry vehicles, about 600 in total, which is the part that carries a warhead back into the atmosphere during its terminal.
I don't know, man, in such a scenario, if I was the president, I would just turn on the live TV, say something nice to the people in the country, say your prayers, and goodbye.
To the target, and with many more decoys on top of that, inflatable balloons meant to waste any anti-missiles. We're now tracking nearly 4,000 potential targets. Our anti-ballistic missiles have been launched and will begin their intercept in another minute. We'll do our best to protect the capital, although there really is no defense.
They are doomed.
Confirming a partial radar blackout. Our systems seem to be glitchy. The enemy must have anticipated we'd launch our interceptors and pre-detonated a few warheads at high altitude. That ionizes the atmosphere and creates radar interference. Our interceptors should still operate okay. They've had a 55% success rate in tests, but never with this many decoys or with radar interference this intense. We might shoot down 50 objects, but there's no guarantee they're warheads.
The animation quality is
most
top.
bombs are going to get through. This is our last chance to counterattack. We're out of time. Our silo launch sequence takes 5 minutes. We have to transmit and confirm a launch order, and the missile needs time to clear the blast radius.
I don't know who made these animations, but he should probably become a game developer as well.
Of the incoming bomb. This is a lot to take in, but the war plan is made. You just need to enter the launch authorization codes and push this button to transmit them. You can't do anything else to save more of our people.
Easy choice.
If you don't launch now, then this war will be over before it even begins. You understand? This is our one chance, right? The effect? Enemy civilian.
So if this guy really wants so much for the button to be pressed and the president doesn't wanna press it, he's just supposed to kill the president and hit the button, or just hit the button because the president won't be able to do anything.
Casualties are hard to estimate, but should be similar to ours. A few million right away, perhaps a few tens of million by the end of the month. The total fallout from their attacks and ours might trigger a nuclear winter, potentially killing billions around the world, but that might happen even if we don't retaliate. I'm sure you have questions, but you have to give orders without expecting answers right now. With an attack of this scale, there's no guarantee communications or assets will be intact in a few minutes. We're out of time. We need a decision, sir. Can we launch?
The decision is to wake up.
Nuclear
It's just a
wars
dream.
aren't regular wars. They only last minutes, and in times of crisis, small conflicts can rapidly spiral out of control. Anything from small communication lags to sensor errors to just uncertainty in the fog of war mean that no leader will ever have a complete idea of what's happening as a crisis unfolds. When tensions are high, accidents or misunderstandings can steer leaders, even those with good intentions, to launch a nuclear attack. Confused and with incomplete information, a single person, yes, it's really just one single person who decides, can literally make civilization-ending decisions, killing hundreds of millions of people.
I was just about to say that it shouldn't be the responsibility of one person alone to choose if he wants to wipe out whole countries or not.
In the time it takes to watch a YouTube video. This story is fiction, but the world came very close to this several times. In 1995, Russian radar detected a submarine-launched missile, and their nuclear forces went on full alert, except it was actually a scientific rocket to study auroras. In 1979, US computers reported a full-scale Soviet attack with only minutes to respond, except it was a training tape being incorrectly loaded into a computer. In 1983, the Soviet satellite alert system showed 5 ICBMs launched from the US, but it was a false alarm caused by sunlight reflected on clouds. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet submarine with no contact to Moscow for several days concluded that nuclear war had begun and decided to launch a nuclear torpedo. Luckily, the authorization of 3 officers was...
Okay, see, it needs 3 people in here, not just the...
One of them, Vasily Arshipov, opposed it. But what if he hadn't? Any safeguard can fail, no matter how carefully designed it might be. And decisions are being made right now to build new weapons and missile systems that commit the world to another century of nuclear stalemate, complicated further by China's emergence as a new nuclear superpower.
Why not use nuclear power for other stuff?
Simply accepting
Instead
that the
of
existence
killing
of nuclear
people.
weapons is inevitable might mean their use is inevitable. But the world doesn't have to be this way. Even incremental steps, taking apart one bomb at a time, will eventually result in a world with none. During the Cold War, the world had over 70,000 nuclear weapons. Through arms reduction treaties, that number is now about 12,500. Progress is not guaranteed,
Why make them in the
but it's
first place?
also not impossible. Governments and militaries are not separate from their nations, they're part of them, just like you. You have the power to make demands of your leaders, and often this begins with just being aware of an issue. If you want to learn more, we've compiled a number of resources for you in the video description.
Okay, that was very interesting video. I can definitely say it was totally worth watching. The animations were top quality. The information was also presented in extremely specific and nice way, bite-sized way. I loved it. What do you guys think about it? Also, do not forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.